at trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or Tom at trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNA and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
We're on the air. No snoozing. No snoozing. No snoozing. You snooze, you lose.
More turkey.
You snooze, you lose.
Turkey puts me to sleep. More turkey. Tryptophan. Too much turkey.
Oh, boy.
I think I ate too much turkey yesterday. I got the turkey sleeps.
Okay.
But gobble, gobble, gobble. We're wide awake here. And happy Thanksgiving, a day after, to everyone. Happy Black Friday. You know why it's called Black, Mike? You certainly know, CJ, so I won't even ask you.
Don't ask me no stuff.
It's Black Friday because it's supposedly the biggest... But let's ask the audience. Does anybody know why it's called Black Friday? I'm not going to say anything. 888-565-1470. Why in the world is today called Black Friday? 888-565-1470. If you have the answer to that, you win.
And we actually do have a caller on, so maybe this caller will know.
Okay, who's that? Hello, caller. Do we have a name?
Hello?
Okay, we're finding the caller, but this is Tom Trento, Trento Vision.
Roman?
Roman, okay.
Yes, Roman is here.
Hi, Roman. How are you today?
I'm doing just great. Tom, how you doing? It's been a while since I saw you last time.
Oh, Roman from up north.
Right.
Okay,
right.
I won't reveal your location unless you want to reveal your location.
Yeah, I'm in a Palatine bunker.
Okay, that's right. Not Palestine, but Palatine.
No, Palatine.
Okay, so why do we call it Black Friday, Roman?
Well, do you want the accounting definition or do you want the politically correct definition?
No, we don't want politically correct anything on this show.
That's right. The accounting definition.
Well, the accounting definition would be that the black meaning financially in the black. So that they're hoping that this day, this will spur their accounting formats into a positive column, showing that they're coming up with some pretty good profit margins.
Yep, that's how I understand it. And this day puts all the businesses in the black because there's some. But now we got Cyber Monday, which is I like shopping online. It's kind of neat. You push a couple of buttons and the guy comes to your door.
I like shopping too, and I hope to do it again someday.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe in 2013.
I know, but we get a lot of cigars online. It's cheaper that way. How are you, Roman? I know you're in the trenches battling the jihadis up there in the Chicago area. How's life these days?
Well, life isn't too good right now, Tom. We've been very disappointed with the elections. The whole Benghazi gate situation didn't seem to make any difference. We still have no idea what happened, who did what, why they're saying what they're saying. So it's not a very good time right now. I think people are reflecting and finding out exactly what we could have done better, what should have been done. But I think there's a lot of disappointed people out there.
Well, rest assured, Roman, and all of our other listeners and viewers, that here on Trento Vision, National Security Radio, we were digging very deeply into Benghazi. We had a whole host of experts, not the least of whom is our guest today, Claire Lopez, deconstructing and analyzing what's going on. And Roman, as you very well know, each and every day has, as this rotten onion is unpeeled, this administration is getting deeper and deeper and deeper into a cover-up that even our colleague Andy McCarthy, the prominent former prosecutor that put the blind sheikh in jail, He even said that from what he sees in the record, that there's the possibility that impeachment for the President of the United States can be considered. And we had a little sidetrack over the past week, 10 days with the war in Israel, but we will be getting back to Benghazi actually later on this afternoon in our second or third hour, because they're all intertwined. It's all one big jihadi mess,
Yep.
and you can't look at these in little pieces. You have to connect the jihad dots, and that's what we do here. So you're with, tell everybody what you do, and then figure out why you're calling, and if you're just calling to say hello, or if you got a question or a thought.
Well, I'm calling to say hello, and also just to thank you, Tom, for all the great work you're doing. It has ramifications across the whole country, so your contributions are well noted, although I know that a lot of people who admire you greatly just don't call and to tell you that. But even in our circles here, you're very well regarded. I do have a question for you, Tom, and maybe you can throw some light on this. You're absolutely correct that this whole thing, the war in Israel, the Benghazi situation, the role of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, as well as the role of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, this is all intertwined. The piece that kind of falls by the wayside, and I couldn't figure out, is General Petraeus and the way he acted and what he did subsequently. It didn't make any sense. Initially, he agreed with Susan Rice that this was some sort of a jihadi tape, which now we know that he didn't believe that. So I'm not sure he was incorrectly relaying it or he didn't have all the information. Later on at the hearings, he did say that it was a terrorist attack. And now they're going back and circling the wagons around Susan Rice because they want to make her Secretary of State and make her lies that she went on 5 networks saying that it was all kind of a mistake. But going back to Petraeus, my question is, what's going on? Why it almost seemed like he was forced to resign because he wouldn't toe the line, do you think, Tom? Because he is, from my experience, having served many years in the military, I mean, he is a man of honor. So what do you think is going on?
Well, first of all, thanks for your kind words about my work. And for the record, you know, I happen to be sort of the front person for a team of unbelievably dedicated patriots, counter-jihad warriors, not the least of whom are in this room right now. But again, we're all mission-oriented and focused. I know you work for a great organization, volunteer for Act for America, running a great chapter up there. You are the beneficiary, Roman, of one of America's top national security experts. Why don't we bring Claire back in, and she's Skyped right now. We figured out how to get the Skyping thing going. We have Don on hold. Don, hang on with us for a little bit. We're going to get to you. And Claire, you heard, I don't know if she heard, did you hear Roman's question?
Yeah, I did hear it.
Okay. Why don't you take a shot at answering Roman's question? And Roman, say hello to Claire. Say hello to Claire, Roman.
Hi, Claire. Nice hearing your voice again. We met in several times.
Hi, Roman. Nice to hear you again, too. Well, just to give a little bit of some idea about these points that you raised, which are really important ones. Number one, I think it's very obvious that General Petraeus flat out lied to Congress. The first time that he testified, which was a few days after the attacks of September 11, 2012. He knew perfectly well at that point in time that the attacks were terrorist attacks, most likely by Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda affiliates belonging to Ansar al-Sharia in Libya. And yet he told Congress otherwise and said that they were the attacks were the result of this obscure little video that literally no one had ever seen. So the question then becomes, why did he do that? And I think what we have to consider then is what happened afterwards, which was his resignation over this affair, which, by the way, dates all the way back to at least 2010, when everybody in Afghanistan knew what he was doing. As for the honor and the integrity, I'm not so sure there is so much. But he knew at the time that he was not telling the truth. He apparently, I think it seems likely, he may have been under pressure by the White House in those days before the election to not tell the truth as he knew it at the time. And then they turned on him and outed his affair anyway. I have very little sympathy for him. His role in this whole affair is, just so to speak, is not an honorable one in any way. I'm also not a very big fan of his counterinsurgency theories that led us to such death and destruction in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And that's the short answer, Roman. Claire has been on the show many hours as we've worked our way through Benghazi. And even before Benghazi, right at the beginning of COIN, the counterinsurgency theory implemented coming out of Iraq into Afghanistan by Petraeus, the Team B people.
Particularly Diana West.
Yeah, there's 19, as you know, Roman, authors, and we're online emailing every day, scores of emails. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, close to 100 emails. It gets crazy. But going back a couple of years, and I counted up everybody's resumes. There are over 400 years from those 19 people of national security experience at a military, intelligence, law enforcement, or academic level of work on these things. And I don't know, Claire, did anybody get behind the COIN theory at that point where you, essentially for our audience, for the listeners and viewers, the Petraeus's counterinsurgency theory, and I remember 2007, Frank Gaffney got a copy of it very early on, and we all read it. It was about a 300-page booklet. It basically says the way you win in these theaters in Muslim worlds is to win their hearts and minds. If you can win their heart and mind, then you can give them a copy of the Declaration and the Constitution, and everything will be fine with the world. That book has a way of erasing 1,400 years of ideological missions. And so, our critiques and attacks on Petraeus post-CIA really began way back. So we're not big fans of Petraeus and his military doctrine, and certainly not in this situation right now. Though he may be a wonderful guy, but we're critiquing what he believes and how he's led the troops.
Tom, that's an excellent point, and Claire, I think, did an excellent point putting it all together. But Claire, let me ask you, if all of this is taking place, one wonders about General McChrystal. Do you think that he really did resign over comments made by someone on his staff, or do you think he resigned because he was fed up with the strategy by the White House?
As I understand it, he resigned under pressure because of those comments made to the magazine by his staff members. And as I understand it, he was an avid participant and supporter of General Petraeus' COIN doctrine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out Rolling Stone, I believe that was.
Right. And it was Rolling Stone.
Yeah. So anyway, Roland, we got to
Rolling along.
We got to roll on here. We have. Why don't you? Are you watching the show or listening, Roman, right now? Not while you're on the phone.
I'm on the phone right now.
Okay, if you can hang up and pull it up. Are you in a position to pull it up? Because I want you to listen to the next report we have.
I'm going to go put you up on a computer.
Okay, because we have a colleague from California reporting on the 4 jihadis that were just pinched out there.
Thank you very much, Tom. Clear. Thank you, everyone there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roman.
Thank you, Roman.
All right, Claire, we have you Skyped in now, so we worked out the little Skype bugs, and it's 20 minutes after 4 o'clock on the East Coast. Tom Trento on TrentoVision.tv, and on the radio side, WNN 1470. One of the best ways, folks, to get all of this information in crystal clear digital audio is to download that little application called iHeartRadio. Do you have it on your phone?
Yes, I do.
Of course, you
Yes.
better. You better too, Mike.
Except for I'm always here
that's right.
listening to it, so I
Okay.
don't have to listen
But
to it somewhere
yesterday,
else.
during the 3 o'clock, I threw it on and I heard our show.
You
know?
did?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And iHeartRadio, you can listen. And as we've mentioned, we are now requesting or allowing people the opportunity to advertise on the show. We'll do radio spots for you. We have a pretty big viewing area, a couple hundred miles and wide and all that. Contact Tom at TrentoVision.tv. We'll give you all the demographic and cost information. Or if you want to make a nice donation, you can do that monthly, or, you trust fund babies, give us a call. Go to TrentoVision.tv. There's a little button there. You can hit that.
And give your tax-free donation.
Tax-free, yes, tax-free, because we're doing educational radio. Educational radio. So, and, we're going to go from Chicago out to California, somewhere out there. I don't know where this caller is calling exactly from, but he is a colleague of ours. We know him well. Caller, you want to say your name and where you're calling from, please?
Good afternoon, Tom. I'm calling from a bunker deep inside the Inland Empire in Southern California. How are you?
Okay, good. And your first name is what?
Don.
Don. Okay, we'll call you Don, and you're deep in the Inland Empire. Well, unless you're from California, I don't know if too many people know what the Inland Empire is. Can you explain that?
Sure. It's the county just east of Los Angeles County. So we're about 45 miles from the coast as the crow flies. And it's a huge geographic area. And we're also just north of San Diego County. So large area. But we've been working out here for about 2 years now, I guess. Just trying to educate the folks in the Inland Empire about the threats that you guys are doing such a great job documenting and bringing to us. And we've had the opportunity to have you and Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hey, Don.
You and Claire out, and we just watched and supported you guys. I wish I was a trust fund baby, because I'd love to be able to spend a couple of those dollars your way, because you guys are doing great work, and we appreciate everything that all of you are doing. You're doing tremendous work, and Tom, thank you guys so much.
Okay, well, thank you. And are you telling us that California has a jihad problem, an Islamic, jihadi, Muslim, want to kill Jews, Christians, take over the world problem? Are you telling us that?
I'm not sure whether it's the beautiful weather or the laid-back attitudes in Southern California, but yeah, we seem to be a magnet for a couple of different things. We've got in San Diego County a rather large population of transplanted refugees from Somalia and Sudan in San Diego that's causing some interesting challenges for the folks down there. We've got a lot of elected officials and law enforcement folks up here that have fallen under the spell of the Muslim Brotherhood. And you and I have had the opportunity to do a little work together out here to document some of that. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty virulent. We actually, in a community very close to where I am, the director of the Southern California chapter of CARE lives, and his daughter goes to a high school in the area, and she just recently, along with a number of other of her colleagues in a high school, set up a brand new Muslim student association in the high school.
In the high school.
In high school.
Well, one point you just mentioned, the transplanted Somalis in San Diego County, you make that sound a little benign. When we looked into that, there are 30,000 Somalis in one little section now known in San Diego County, beautiful San Diego's Little Mogadishu. That's what it's called, Little Mogadishu. Right. We had some folks try to go in there, some pretty tough people try to go in to go visit some of the mosques. They could not get down the streets. They said it was so dangerous that bad people just hanging on the streets, and anybody white going in there, it was an immediate threat. So not only do you
How about
have
the
that,
Mexicans?
yeah, well, the part of the problem, as everybody on this line knows, is the rat line coming from Mexico into the United States, not just dope,
Right.
but dopes, jihadi dopes from Hez or the Hamas. Plus, yeah, Don, we've done a lot of work out in Los Angeles County with law enforcement, Claire, myself, the United West, you. So California is a bellwether state for the jihad. What just happened this week, I believe it was, right?
Yeah, well, it really came to the public's attention on Friday when 3 fellows were arrested in a community very close to where our bunker is located. The community is in Chino, which is about, just to orient folks, it's about 45 miles east of the coast, and it's a bedroom community, and the footage of the interviews of the residents in that community, they were pretty shocked to find out what unfolded. So essentially, we've got basically losing our son's light unfolded here in Southern California over the last 2 years, and I only say light because they were stopped before they ever completed their jihad. And there are a lot of parallels in the radicalization of some of the fellows we're going to talk about. A lot of parallels to the path that Carlos Bledsoe traveled, who is the focal point of the movie Losing Our Sons.
Wow. And all right, so to develop the story for us, or develop who these people are and what their intent was and what the complaint says. And
Sure. Well, it's a story that, as I've read through all the material, it creates as many questions as the information we have so far provides answers. We've been saying for over 2 years that I've been involved in this, that this is happening in Southern California. Anyone who thinks now that we have some concrete evidence, who thinks it isn't, and especially if they think this is just an isolated case, they're fooling themselves. What makes this really interesting in reading through both the complaint and what we've been able to find out in the media, what makes this interesting and valuable is that we have the ability through the FBI's use of a confidential source that has been working with the FBI for over 4.5 years, who is involved in this case now almost since its beginning. We have a record of how the entire process unfolded, what their mindsets were, their actual conversations, and their extensive use of social media. And the FBI also made extensive use of something called an online covert employee to gather information through conversations with these fellows in social media. So essentially the facts are, starting in August of 2002, a bad guy by the name of Sohail Omar Kabir, a 34-year-old Muslim Afghanistan-born naturalized U.S. citizen and a resident of Pomona, California, who incidentally served in the U.S. Air Force from 2000 to 2001. He's the guy that converted these 3 other fellows to Islam and influenced them into a radical and violent Islamic doctrine. A lot of Anwar al-Awlaki's materials were used to influence these guys, and they made extensive use of the magazine, of the Inspire magazine, which is produced by Al-Qaeda, which was found on their persons in one case as they traveled across the U.S.-Mexican border. They were down there essentially to do gun training, which is a whole other part of the unanswered question. The 3 individuals that were radicalized were a fellow by the name of Ralph De Leon. He's 23 years old, lives in Ontario, California. He was born in the Philippines, and he, in his conversion, took the Muslim name Rafiq Abdul Rahim. Second fellow by the name of Miguel Santana, 21, of Upland, a lawful permanent residence with pending citizenship, born in Mexico. He took the Muslim name Mohammed Khalid Makil Kadab. And then there's a third fellow who just recently came to the party this year, named Rafin David, I think it's Gajali, 21-year-old from Riverside, California. He's a U.S. citizen. So these guys planned to travel from the U.S. to engage in violent jihad and had planned to do so from the time that Kabir converted them to Islam in 2010.
Wow.
Just to wrap up the quick facts on this, these three guys were arrested on Friday, November 16th, by Joint Terrorism Task Force personnel, which is a amalgamation of a lot of different sworn officers here, some folks from the Sheriff's Department, Riverside PD, FBI, and some other local law enforcement groups. Kabir was already in custody in Afghanistan when these guys were arrested, where he was already paving the way for them to join him. He had left the U.S. in December of 2011 and entered Afghanistan in July of 2012. He spent basically 6 months in Germany. God only knows what he was doing in Germany and who the people were that he was connected. But this guy was a full-blown jihadi from the word go. He attended a mosque in Pomona, California, and the leadership of that mosque has already come out and made their statements about what a nice guy he was.
Hey, Claire, are you familiar with this case? Did you take a look at it yet?
I've had a look, yeah.
What are your quick thoughts on this situation? And if I'm not mistaken, you spend a little time in California yourself, don't you?
I've been out there a bit. This is just the next in a sequence of thankfully disrupted plots that our law enforcement has interrupted before they could, continue with actually carrying out a terrorist attack on U.S. soil. So tip of the hat to law enforcement for that one. But we're going to see more of these. You mentioned, Don, how many different places these guys came from. United States, Afghanistan, Mexico, what was it, the Philippines, I think, the other one?
Philippines, yes.
So all of these different locations, but what unifies them, I think, is the important thing that we've got to get across. What unifies them is Islamic ideology. It's not Islamist. It is not radical Islam. It is Islam. It is the doctrine, the law, and the scripture of Islam is what unifies these. And what the first fellow, the Afghan, conveyed to the others and trained and taught them in is simply just that, the doctrine, the law, and the scriptures of Islam, to motivate them to become actually practicing jihadis. So the other thing to note, I think, is the continuing influence of Anwar al-Awlaki, an American citizen killed with a drone strike over in Yemen, but also his continuing influence through his tapes, his DVDs, and so forth that he's left behind. And also the other thing to note is they're all connected to a mosque. We've got to take a look at the mosques in the United States. We know from studies that at least 80% of the mosques in the United States either contain on the premises literature that is promoting jihad and violent jihad at that, or it has imams who are preaching the same thing, or both. We need to take a look at what is going on inside of these mosques, because every single time one of these plots is disrupted, there is a mosque at the heart of it. And I don't mean to talk about all mosques in America, but when 80% of them are shown to be either preaching or containing on their premises literature promoting violent jihad against America and the West, sedition, essentially, against the Constitution, that should be cause for concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got to get past all the nonsense that mosques are a church or a synagogue. They're not. Historically, theologically, ideologically, a mosque is a gathering place to launch dawah, the evangelism of the non-Muslim, and to implement jihad if necessary, either cultural or kinetic. So viewers, listeners, a mosque is not a church, okay? And in many respects, it should not even enjoy First Amendment protection if indeed seditious activity. See, people think, sedition, you can't overthrow the United States. It's too big, it's too strong. Claire, let me ask you this. Having spent 20 years in the agency, Central Intelligence Agency, I know historically the agency's work was outside the borders of the United States of America. The FBI was inside the borders of the United States of America. Now the FBI works outside the borders of the United States of America. Does the CIA work inside the borders of the United States of America?
Well, maybe turn this around and talk about the threats, actually, which are now global. It used to be that you could divide threats as being overseas or international and those that were domestic. Well, now that you've got a global ideology by the name of Islam and globally located organizations like Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, and others, you have a situation where the ideology and the groups that adhere to that ideology are international. They are both domestic and international. And that's why something like a joint terrorism task force contains representatives from different law enforcement and intelligence and security agencies to bring together those different strands that we find now coming together in plots like this.
So is that a yes, that the CIA works internally in the United States?
The CIA has a headquarters located at Langley, Virginia. Yes.
CJ, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Actually, we spoke at the third presidential debate here at Lynn University. One of the figures we interviewed after the debate was Mike Rogers, the House Homeland Security Committee.
Intelligence Committee.
Intelligence, sure. Yeah. And he was very, very adamant about not wanting or allowing the CIA to monitor any on U.S. soil communications of American citizens.
Oh, interesting.
And we have that on interview. Now, whether that's true or not, that they're not doing it, I don't know.
We should clarify. I mean, by law, the CIA's mandate is not domestic. By law, the FBI's mandate is domestic. Do they have to, especially in a post-9/11 world, do they have to share information about these trans-border, transnational threats? Yes, absolutely they do. But the mandate of the CIA is international. The mandate of the FBI and local law enforcement, obviously, is domestic.
Okay. Don, could you stop back next week and give us a little update on this case, track it, and pull out, you fascinated us with the dialogue that's in that 77-page report to get in the inner thinking and the operational activities as it relates to social media. Can you put a little brief 5-minute presentation on that and come back next week and share it with the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. And by then, hopefully, I'll be able to have some additional information from some of the contacts I'm reaching out to on this. You know, Claire made some great points and just general observations from reading this complaint to these guys. This was serious business. This was not some misplaced testosterone-driven male bravado. They bought Islam hook, line, and sinker. They made a very conscious and personal decision to redirect their lives, dedicating it to kill those that did not share the same religious beliefs. And in the complaint, when discussing their preferred roles in violent jihad, they indicated they would have no problem killing an enemy, which would be us, the United States and our service people, they stated that in this complaint, he would blow their brains out and send him to Jahannam, which is Arabic for hell.
Yep. And here's the frightening part about all of this, which is why we're doing this, ladies and gentlemen. TrentoVision.tv, WNN 1470, bringing you these insights and information so that you can keep yourself and your family safe. Frightening part is this is one of the operational cells that our wonderful law enforcement agencies busted up. How many more are out there that not only do they know nothing of, but how many more are growing every day? And when you look at the events of the past 3 or 4 days in the Middle East, and you see basically Israel, blowing the hell out of the Hamas, but then capitulating through the Muslim Brotherhood's leadership, you got a jihadi today has to say, oh my God, Allah is blessing us, things are going our way, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and join the fight. I mean, everything that's taking place is simply energizing these guys. There's no disincentive right now for them to say, maybe I'll go get a job in a restaurant. This looks like a good world for jihadis right now.
Totally being encouraged, you're right.
Yep. Hey, Don,
Great.
thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Don. Look forward to speaking more next week.
Stay safe out
Jay,
there.
it was a pleasure to visit with you, too. I look forward to actually getting a chance to meet you personally. Claire, great to be with you, and Tom, and the rest of the stream team. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, we want Invisible Mike wants to say goodbye.
Yeah, hey, Bob, how you doing?
Brother, how you doing, Mike?
Pretty good, man, pretty good. Yeah, I just want to say what's up. I can't hear you.
Good.
Okay. All right, you take care,
Yeah, I'll
Don.
talk to you sometime next week.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, Claire, bring for our audience, so we have Claire Lopez Skyped in if you're watching the show. If you're just listening, you can hear her voice, so it works both ways. Complete the circle here to show the relationship between, and then we'll pick back up on the historical analysis of the PLO, but complete the circle with what's going on in the Middle East right now and the jihadis that were just busted in California.
Well, jihad is obviously mandated by Islamic law and is integral to Islam since its inception 1,400 or so years ago. But what we're seeing right now, and I would say since the last century, since the 20th century, is resurgence. With the creation of the Muslim Brotherhood in 1928, end of the Cold War, and other events favorable, the lid has come off of jihad. People forget, I think, that jihad was integral to Islam all of this time. There were armed military conquests from the beginning of Islam, and you may say 622, the date of the Hijrah. I mean, all the way through until the current day. And the only time when violent jihad was not practiced is when it was physically suppressed through colonialism or through more powerful military force. So what we're seeing essentially is just a reversion back to what always has been historically the case for Islam and jihad. And to round off that circle, or complete the circle, if you will, what we are seeing is a confluence of forces very much favorable to jihad right now. We have an administration in Washington, D.C. that is extremely pro-Muslim Brotherhood. The administration thoroughly infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood. Policy that is being enacted right now and is aiding and abetting the jihad across the Middle East and North African region. The rise to power of the Muslim Brotherhood in places like Tunisia and Libya and Egypt and maybe soon Syria. All of this forms a trend. You can go back as well to 1979, the Iranian Revolution, although Shiite, of the same ideology as the Sunni Muslim Brotherhood. And what we are seeing, these jihadis arrested now in the California plot are simply part of the whole. They consider themselves warriors. They are jihadis in the cause of Islam. They don't look at borders. They don't necessarily look at lines on a map. They are, as you were talking about earlier, Tom, the Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam, versus the entire rest of the world that is not subjugated yet to Sharia law, Dar al-Harb, the House of War. And that's how they look at things.
Oy vey, okay, on a beautiful November 23rd afternoon. When does winter start? I think winter already started.
No, I think it's December 22nd.
Yeah, I think it's a global winter right now, a jihad winter. 23rd of November, 44 minutes past the hour. We have former CIA operations officer Claire Lopez on the line, currently a fellow with the Center for Security Policy, centerforsecuritypolicy.org. Claire, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
I'll put out my email address. It is my name, ClareLopez@gmail.com.
ClareLopez.
Yes, it's not. It's the regular spelling of Claire Lopez. Okay, where we left off at the end of the second hour, you were constructing for our listening and viewing audience the historical developments that got us to where we are in the Middle East right now, and why this is important, folks. Because one little burp, right now you drive around, you're going shopping and all that. And there is a certain sense of value to a civilized democracy where the people of a country are somewhat isolated from the catastrophic and chaotic affairs in the world. When you have a civilized government and a good infrastructure in a country, you were... during World War II, the baseball games went on and life went on, and we were fighting a vicious war in several theaters. So, in a sense, that's one of the benefits of a strong country. But now with Twitter and immediate communication, and that's weird. I don't know where that's coming from. We'll check that out. But now with the immediate capability of communication, no one is immune from the chaos that occurs at any point on the globe. And one of the ways where this hits people very quickly is in the price of gasoline. One little burp anywhere in the Middle East and your gasoline is going to go up. You're going to go, what the hell's going on? What is happening? Well, we're explaining to you right now the geopolitical events that are aligning themselves not only to impact your wallet at the gas tank, but basically can impact your life traveling around in the United States or anywhere in this world. So Claire, why don't you continue with, we left off where you were constructing the development of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO. By the way, parenthetically, our president, Barack Hussein Obama, studied at Columbia under Edward Said, who was the PLO, essentially the PLO representative, academic representative to the United States in his chair at Columbia, and he mentored Barack Hussein Obama on
through Rashid Khalidi.
and then when he left, Rashid Khalidi took over the chair, and both of those mentored our president on Palestinian politics and the plight of occupied Palestine. I wonder why we don't see the writings of the Columbia Papers of President Obama.
Maybe Donald Trump wasn't paying enough for it.
I know.
But also, I want to remind you, I have a bunch of Russia questions. So
For Claire, yes.
For Claire, so if we don't get to them in this hour, we absolutely have to do it in the next hour.
You know anything about Russia, Claire?
Maybe a tad.
Yeah.
Do you know that there's Russians in Gaza?
Russians have been very busy in the Middle East for a very long time.
Wait until CJ tells you what she found. But keep going with the PLO. We'll work our way to
I
that.
just want to make sure we don't let it go today.
Well, as we were talking about, Yasser Arafat formed Fatah first as a jihadist organization intended to fight against Israel in about 1958. Then along, I think I gave the wrong date before, but let me correct it, 1964, under the auspices of the Arab League, the Palestinian Liberation Organization was formed, which combined Fatah and other Palestinian organizations like the Palestinian Liberation Front and so forth, others. By the end of the 1960s, 68 or so, Yasser Arafat had essentially taken over the PLO. Fatah was dominant. Hamas didn't exist yet at that point. Remember this. So for a long time, and as Palestinian terrorism kicked off, remember the hijackings, remember the terrorist attacks in Europe, those were all Yasser Arafat PLO attacks. Eventually, we came to the 1980s when Hamas itself was formed. And this occurred primarily because there was a move towards negotiations. And these Palestinians, these Arabs, who later formed Hamas, opposed any kind of negotiated settlement, any kind of negotiations whatsoever with Israel. And so they formed Hamas, which is actually an acronym in the Arabic language, basically meaning opposition group. And that was formed in 1987, the kickoff date of the first Intifada. That Intifada ended in the early 1990s with the Oslo process and eventually the Oslo Accords, signed between the PLO, the Israelis, and brokered by the United States.
Now, Claire, that was Bill Clinton, right?
It was Bill Clinton in the White House at that point in time. And that agreement immediately, in the Arabic language that Arafat used with his own people, was termed a hudna, with reference to Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. As your listeners may know, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah is a treaty that Muhammad concluded with his enemies in the year 628 when they were weak, the Muslims were weak, and they concluded a temporary truce, a hudna, just long enough to get strong again. That was Hudaybiyah. Arafat then goes on, right after 93, to say this is nothing but another Treaty of Hudaybiyah, clearly indicating that it is a treaty meant to be broken as soon as the Palestinians were strong enough to do it, which of course they did, kicking off the terrible suicide attacks of the 1990s that then led up through the 1990s until we come to the second Intifada, the Al-Aqsa Intifada of 2000, which was even more horrific. And as our good friend Mark Kullberg has shown us on our fantastic tour of Israel earlier this year, those suicide attacks reached deep into Israel, into its cities, Netanya and Jerusalem and everywhere else. And eventually the Israelis discovered ways of responding security-wise to those attacks. And as Mark would say, that Intifada never really ended, but the Israelis did learn how to keep the suicide attacks down, and part of that, of course, was the security barrier constructed between Israel proper and the territories of Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, which literally dropped suicide bombings to next to nothing by physically keeping the bombers out of Israeli cities. So basically, that's where we were, and the withdrawal from southern Lebanon followed in 2005. In 2000, that very same year, the withdrawal from Gaza followed in 2005. These are trade-offs that Israel made, believing that by giving up land they would get peace. Of course, nothing of the sort happened. Southern Lebanon was taken over by Hezbollah, Gaza taken over by Hamas. I think we talked a little bit about the elections that were held, the last ones in 2006, brought Hamas to power. The putsch of 2007 ejected Fatah from the Gaza territories, and the Hamas leadership has ruled there ever since, not able to get into Israel anymore so easily with either jihadist suicide bombers or using rifle fire as they used to from places in apartment buildings and so forth overlooking Israeli cities because of the security barrier, thankfully. They turned to rockets. They turned first to homemade rockets, Katyushas coming out of southern Lebanon, Qassams coming out of Gaza into the nearby areas of Israel. Then they moved it up. They notched it up. The Iranians helped them with longer range missiles, the Grads, and now the Fatah series, Fatah 5 in particular, that have the longer range. And that's the way they're now trying to attack Israel. Let's remember, the Hamas charter says very specifically that Hamas exists to destroy Israel. That is part of the Hamas covenant. I say covenant, by the way, because that document is an agreement between the leadership of Hamas and Allah. It's not between Hamas and any other organization or government or people. It is between Hamas and Allah. That's why it's a covenant.
That is a great point. CJ has one. We got about a minute left.
Yeah, I just want to
I'm gonna
bring
pick
up
it up on
one.
the
Yeah,
side.
just one little point before the end of the hour here. If we're talking about Arafat and his career, one thing I think we need to all keep in mind, especially because of what we talk about on this show all the time and the president's influences, is the famous gun and olive branch speech at the UN that he made in 1974, in which he basically did a victory lap across the UN, and the big talk back then was colonialism, neo-colonialism, and racism, and everything that influences this president we have now emanates from that speech that Arafat made at the UN in 1974.
And I wanna float the idea of colonizing Gaza again. I was driving here today thinking, how do we solve this? We're going to talk about possibly colonizing Gaza again.
Are we going to invade Venus to do this, is what I want to know.
But we're going to do that after we get back with Claire Lopez. It's Tom Trento, CJ, TrentoVision.tv. We'll see you just in a little bit, folks. We'll be right back.